Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever those goals may be for you. We have a action. I wouldn't say an action pack, but tonight is going to be very exciting. We're going to dig into some things, and we're really going to help free that mindset. How to overcome a toxic mindset? Because even on the calls I was on today, Corey, people were talking about a lot of self sabotage and a lot of their issues, and so I think this topic is going to help the people. I think we're going to deliver some valuable content. Corey, how's your day going today?
Oh man, it's always great. Man, and then for those listening to it, man, the Baltimore Ravens just won today, so they got over the hump in the playoffs, man. So I'm super excited.
Hey, they stomped on the logo too.
Hey, they stomped on the logo, and my man Derek Wolf said it wasn't even about the disrespect; it was just them celebrating. But I don't know about that, man.
Nah, man. So Corey, our guest tonight is actually your brother, somebody near and dear to you. I'm gonna turn it over to you, and I'm gonna let you introduce us to your brother, and then we're gonna bring him on, and we're gonna rock and roll.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to bring to y'all tonight, man. I asked my brother to do this for us because I've seen him grow. I've seen where he's gone with his life. I've seen him fall, and I've seen him really get out of the rut of what we're talking about tonight. And a lot of times, Tyrus, to be honest with you, we listen to these podcasts and they always have these experts on here, and they'll be like, hey, I got this expert on mental health. I got this expert on overcoming whatever. But to be honest with you, I really wanted to bring somebody on that is in the thick of it, that has gone through it, and they don't have the PhDs and the MSWs behind their name. Something a little bit more practical for people, and I guess on the day-to-day level. But I'm proud to introduce to y'all, man, my brother Timothy Sigue Jr. So let's go ahead and bring him up.
Bring him to the stage.
All
Thank you.
right, so
Thank you.
how's it going, bro?
It's going pretty good. How's it going for you guys?
Oh man, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. And, Tim, we just really thank you for taking the time out to come join us tonight to share your story. Because, like Corey said, a lot of focus that we see on podcasts, especially ones we follow, is they're always bringing the expert, but we never hear the story from the perspective of the person that actually went through it and overcame it, and the homework, the work that's needed on the back end. We see the front end. Well, if I give you this system, if I give you this process, and you'll go through it, your life will change. But we don't ever hear about the real work that's put in by the individual. So I just thank you for joining us. And I'm I got my notepad ready. I got my mind open. I'm ready to receive information, and I'm gonna let Corey drive tonight on this. I'm gonna tap in on a couple of the things, but I'm gonna let Corey do all the driving.
Yeah, so first and foremost, the question we always bring to our panelists. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, who you are, what you're about, what this topic means to you.
Well, let's see. So I'm 35 years old. I am with you from Southwest Louisiana. Um, Live out here in Dallas, Texas area now, and I work as a test engineer in IT. Always been kind of my dream field to go towards. Took a long time to get here, but you know what? I finally got it going. Um, Married. I've got a little kid. Absolutely love my little girl Neela. I'm hoping she don't interrupt everything. She's taking a nap, but always been the kind of person to get in the thick of everything. You know, the term jack of all trades. You could probably name a career. I've been there and done it. Retail, fast food, everything. Um, I have suffered from depression for a long time in my life. Adult ADHD when I was younger in my life, things like that. Those are all major factors that help to deal with somebody and help to deal with overcoming the toxic mindset, and helping really and truly like bring your mentality to the forefront. You have to know who you are before you can decide what you want to do with that.
Yeah, and so that's good. And so I wanna open it up for us with that piece. So you said you were a jack of all trades. And so I want to start from what I know from really the beginning. And you said, it's been a long time that I've gotten, that I've gotten to IT. when we were younger, you used to get clowned about you liking computers and you coding and you creating, if you remember beyond.com, you creating the little characters for beyond.com. Like that used to be a sore spot in your life because people would be like, man, why don't you want to be outside? Why don't you want to, play sports like Corey? And I feel like there was always this combativeness between us two because it was like, well, Corey's the sports star, and that's the thing that people resonate with. But Tim likes computers, and back in the day, technology wasn't the hot thing. So let's talk about that. When it comes to how do you find your way, and I guess how did you put your vision back onto saying, you know what, this is what I'm good at. This is, and we always talk about our gift. I believe that your gift is technology. And so how did you put yourself back into that when really everything life kept telling you was I'm going to belittle you because that's who you are.
So it's one of those things where you have to keep it up, even if you don't do it career wise. Keep it as a hobby, put it on the back burner for a little bit, keep dabbling in it. You and I grew up. You were more sports and athletics oriented. I was more technology oriented. I think the big thing is that at that point in time in life, people feared technology a little bit more. It wasn't as prevalent. People, if you don't know the terminology or what it does, of course, there's an innate, weariness to want to like step into that realm of things. And so it's also really difficult when you have, like let's say our parents, when we have parents who don't understand technology, and you have, let's say, like a 10, 12-year-old child who can really understand the finer workings of a CPU system. That's a little bit scary because you don't know how to parent that. You don't know how to advise on that. You don't know how to grow that because you don't understand where that's coming from. And so sports and more athleticism stuff is a little bit easier because that's something you're a little more knowledgeable in life about. I think it is a big ebb and flow because these are two things that are on opposite sides of the spectrum, honestly. But it's good to see that growing over time, that technology has come more to the forefront. This year has proved definitely that technology is a greater part of everyone's life than anyone could ever think about. And so it's just keeping on track with it, keeping flowing with it, dabble in it, learn a little bit on your own, and don't feel demoralized by it. If just understand where the other person's coming from. If they don't understand quite what you enjoy about it or what you can grow with it, then that might not be the thing for them. But it shouldn't stop you or make you change your path on where that goes.
So, Tim, I'm interested in understanding at that age and where you come from. I'm from South Alabama, so when anybody talked about technology, people are like, "Do what? With what? And where and who? What piqued your interest? What even got you into looking into the more technology side of the house versus following the footsteps of sports and hanging out and being outside and just all those things that we would have grown up in the South like that?"
I think some of the biggest influences for it would have to be, playing video games when you're younger. It's a story, it's a getaway. It's taking you out of your normal life and you get to live some kind of life that's, past your wildest imaginations. Movies, books, these, science fiction was leaps and beyonds what we thought it was back in the day. In the 80s and the 90s, sci-fi, we thought crazy stuff. Nowadays, it's a little bit harder because we really do have a lot of the technology that we didn't think was even remotely possible. Nobody ever thought I'd be able to take a video on my phone or even video talk to somebody on a phone. That's unheard of. When
Right.
back in the day, you really had to pay extra just to call someone out of state.
Yep.
And
Howdy.
exactly. And so I think it was just a getaway. It's, the ability to think like, oh, wow. First of all, I like to build. I like to take apart and build things. And then add to the fact that if I can build something to play a game on or to make something my own individual project, then I think that was a bigger driving factor in things.
Okay. Good, good.
Yeah, and so one of the things, and when we talk about technology or whatnot, as we move into getting out of the toxic mindset, um, is really, I think there's a theme in your life that I've been catching, like when I really chronicle it, and it's that life kept telling you no. And what I mean by that is, so if we think about, and I always tell this in my story, if you can remember those days, we used to be sitting outside that little white house on Ruley Street, and the lights were out. We didn't have any electricity, and it was actually cooler on the outside than it was inside. And so that's always the point that I say that was in my life when I said, something has to give. We watching mama work 2 and 3 jobs, lights still off. We sit outside because that's not our natural AC. We go inside, you got to take a shower before the lights go out, because otherwise where the bathroom was located, there is zero light and you might die. Um, talk to us about that. What's the point in your life? And I know I can think about a couple different ones, but I really want to know in your mind when it clicked for you to say, you know what, something has to change. Like, I can't continue down the same path. There has to be something more than me, or more for me, I should say.
I think a lot of that came through in my, I think a little bit late, but in my early 20s is when I first truly realized it. I think late teens is when I started to realize that this was not the life I wanted. I did not want to grow up in this area. I did not want to spend my life out here. The values that everyone had living in that area were not anything that I wanted to be a part of. And if I was going to grow, I had to get out there. Like a big part of myself, and probably one of the weirdest, scariest decisions I ever made in my life, was coming right out of high school, graduated high school. 2 weeks later, went to Arizona to college. I knew no one in Arizona. I had no vehicle, no plan, no nothing like that. I just knew that's where I wanted to go. There's a school for video game design out there. I just want to go out there and do it. It's away from where I'm at, and it's hopefully a spot where people are a little bit more understanding of people like myself. You always want somebody to understand where you're coming from or fit in with you. And then after college, a really big key part, especially talking about overcoming toxic mentalities, restarting life and things like that. In my 20s, when my girlfriend at the time, we were living in New Orleans, drove back from New Orleans one weekend, and it had been rough back and forth between work, stress, everything like that. And I literally got dumped and dropped on my feet with like $13 in cash and the clothes I had in my bag. And that was it. And Corey, I don't know if you remember that trip, Corey. We had to get the truck and go all the way out there to pick up a little bit of stuff and come back, man. And I literally restarted my life with a $10 prepaid cell phone that you got for free. No touch screen, no nothing fancy. It literally just makes calls. And like, speak jack of all trades, went and looked for work doing drafting a little bit on the side, and then got a job with the sheriff's department, working in corrections, because it made money and it had benefits. Got to do something. You got to stay afloat. I got $3 to my name. It's time to stay afloat with it. So yeah, it's just about taking leaps.
So that's the question I actually had, Corey, before you jump back in. When you had mentioned being a jack of all trades, I was wondering if it was something that was driving you to do those different things as a achievement, or if you were doing them because you had to do them. So I had to go get the job at the sheriff department because I didn't have any money. I had to go and do this. I had to go and do that. So the things that you have done and I guess sampled with throughout life, they were done out of necessity, not necessarily out of enjoyment.
Yes. So more so necessity than enjoyment. There's a lot of times where I've taken a job and, after that job's done, have gone back in life and said, I don't ever want to do that again. And so if it came between two different job types, I'm like, okay, I'll pick this instead, and it's a new experience and it's something different, but it's kind of like a why not? Which is really weird because in a lot of other aspects of my life, I have so much fear in jumping in and doing some things, but with stuff like that, it's just like second nature. I don't mind, let's jump in and try it out. Why not?
Yeah, now, and I want to stay there though for a second, because So you talked about going to college, right? And I remember that phone call when it was random. Tyrus, we thought it was a teleprompter, whatever they call them for bills. And I remember answering the phone and being like, "Hello, like I'm eating dinner right now. Why you calling me?" And they was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." They were like, "Is Tim Sigue at home?" And that was the first time I was like, "Why are they calling for him?" And so I handed the phone over to him, and I remember you like was just jumping up and down because you were like, "Yo, they're saying I can go to college." They saying like, and we were like, "Who? Who's saying you can go to college?" And it was because you had been part of the technology crew or club at in your high school. But so something that I think a lot of people struggle with is understanding that in life will give you a little bit, and then it may snatch it from you because I believe it really wants to test you to see if that's what you really want. And so you talked about college. So talk to us about that because you got a little taste of college and then something happened. And I want you to talk about that. Something happened and then you get snatched back home from it. And just to give people an idea of how big it was, and I was telling my brother this the other day, he broke down a lot of barriers for me to say, oh, I can actually go do this. The issue is for me was I hadn't seen anybody finish it. So the reason I say that is because as my brother's transitioning into college, I remember mom pulling up pennies and like nickels and stuff from the couch because she was like, we got to get a rental car once we get there. So talk to us a little bit about you get some and then it gets snatched away, and then you get some because I think it's very pivotal in overcoming the toxic mindset or overcoming the victim mindset. When it comes to life's gonna give you a little bit and then it's gonna snatch it, right? So you had the girlfriend, and then that was your fiance at one point in time, and then that was your wife at one point in time, and then it gets snatched from you. So in that particular moment, I think y'all were engaged or on the way to being engaged, and then like you said, you get snatched and put on and get put out with $13 to your name. So talk to us about that. What is the mindset someone has to have when life just keeps giving you a little bit and then it just gets snatched right away from you?
So the big thing is this, growing up and having gotten past that point, the mindset is fear. You're going to have fear. It happens. It's the scariest thing on earth because no one wants to get snatched away from you, you see. But the big part of it is that you have to look at the opportunity of it. It's a double-edged sword. You have to look at the opportunity. Yeah, it got snatched away from you, but you have, in restarting, that knowledge to go further next time. And that's all life really is a big run of just making it a little bit further, making it further. Take that knowledge, okay, make it further. Going back to video games. When you get to a spot where you can't complete it, what do? You reset it. Did you fail? No, you reset it. Because you didn't get to the end doesn't mean you failed. So you reset it. So college was tough for me because living out there, not having a vehicle, trying to get a job and also, work on my classes and also work on everything else, having no finances. Mom was back home trying the best she could. I didn't even know the struggles y'all were going through because half the time I didn't even have a working phone. So I'd have to call from a payphone down the road to just, communicate with everybody. And at the point in time of like finally calling it on it and understanding that, I was able to take the knowledge that I learned there. It was a new life, a new world, a new opening to me. This was not home. And come back and take that mindset and go, okay, these are the things that I need to do to push forward. This is what I've seen others do to be successful. These are what I've seen others do to not be successful. So this time when I go down that road, I know what to avoid. And so coming back, it was okay. Let me first start off and find a job. Let me work at that job. It doesn't have to be a great job. It has to be a job. Okay. Because the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand is that some jobs are jobs, some jobs are careers. And it doesn't make you a bad person going into a job because you need to get into the job because we all have to keep pushing. That dream job will get there eventually. I've done it. Everybody can do it. But it's taking that knowledge at the time, so I fell flat on my face probably between college time, probably 2 or 3 times in that realm of things, but you got to pick back up, keep going, pick back up and keep going.
Oh, I can so, uh, that just brought up memories because too, when I went to college, didn't do the right thing, lost my scholarship back home, working at UPS, and some people saw that as they knew the guys in UPS that they were the hub supervisor, hub manager. So you knew that, okay, I can make a career out of this, but I got to work my way up. For me, I knew that UPS wasn't a career for me, it was a job. And so you said something right there that I want people to hear. Know where you are in life and what season that is for you. Some of you are in a job when you should be moving towards a career. Some of you are stuck in a position and you're complaining about it every day, but that's not the end destination for you. So make that distinction. Job versus career. Where am I at in life and where do I need to go? And let me go and do it. Because another point, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Corey, is you're wanting career benefits from a job, and a job does not have that for you. So you have to elevate your mindset and do the work to get out of that job situation into one that's more conducive for where you're going.
Ooh, and you said a word there, because what I got from what he was saying was, in the midst of adversity, in the midst of failure, if we want to call it failure or whatnot, I learned something, and I knew based on learning that, then I had to do it here. I think a lot of people don't take, well, this didn't happen for me, and that's okay. But what did I take from it? What did I extract from it? What's the principle from it? What's the thing that I can do from it, from this, and learn from it? And yeah, I might be flat on my face right now, but even take it a step further, right? Understand what's your job or your career, so to speak, and really apply that to yourself. So we might not be talking about regular jobs. We might be talking about a situation that you're in. Is that a job or is that a career? That relationship that you're in, is that a job or a career for you? Let's be honest with each other. So here's the thing. Understand that you got to work some of these jobs. I done had, look, that sound like all three of us on here done had some jobs that we were just like, this ain't it. This is not it. But there's things that we learn from, and I talked about that on the last podcast, of like, how many principles, how many things did you learn from these odd and end jobs that you finally got to that career and you were like, ooh, I'm glad I did that. But you had to mesh it all together to bring it to, to really bring it to life and to become who you are. And so this is the next part for me. This is one of the things that is really underutilized, and I'm gonna just be honest, in really minority communities, and especially in the Black community. And I know y'all probably watching this right here, and y'all be like, man, the boy is light skinned, man. It's cool, just light skinned, that's all. But the thing is, so you talked about, you talked with us about how you got diagnosed with ADHD, you got diagnosed with depression. How do you overcome that? Because in the midst of that stuff doesn't go away, right? It's not like, hey, you can't go to college anymore, or hey, you got kicked out the house. Hey, you don't have any money to your name. Step aside mental health. Let me go ahead and handle my business. Then you can come back when you want. So talk to us about that. Like, how were you dealing with that at the time? How did you overcome it? What are some steps? And for this one, I want like real tangible steps that someone dealing with this right now, whether you have depression, bipolar, ADHD, like what steps can you take, or what things can you do to really say, okay, even though life's kicking my behind right now, this is what I need to do for me to really get over that hump.
So depression, ADD, ADHD, any kind of mental disorder, I will say this, okay? The number one thing is this: talk about it, talk to someone, deal with it. It doesn't go away. It doesn't stop anything. It honestly is just a multiplier for making any small situation even more difficult. There are so many situations where I've had like anxiety attacks, stress attacks, stuff like that, just from somebody saying at work, hey, I need to talk to you on Monday. And I spent the whole weekend. This literally happened last year. So my advisor, my supervisor told me, hey, Tim, I need to have a conversation with you on Monday. And I said, okay, cool. I went from my building down to the lab, did all my work and stuff like that. And then she goes, actually, hey, I need to have a conversation with you right now. Can you come back up to the other building? Panic set in. I was like, oh my goodness, what all wrong that could happen. There was nothing in my mind that led towards a positive. It wasn't, oh, this could be a raise. Oh, this could be something great. It was instantly, I'm getting fired. This is it. This is the end of it. Because that's where your mind goes when you suffer from depression. Nothing good comes out of things. And so get up there, and it was just as simple as, hey, we about to next week. We're thinking about moving the schedule around just a little bit. Are you cool to come in at 8 instead of 9? That's it. Nothing major. Nothing. But I stressed so hard. I thought it was the end of the world. It takes any small thing and makes it a terrible thing. And so talking to someone is a big thing. I want to say that the next big step is to find help, whether it be, we have such a bad stigma on medication, on talking to, a therapist, things like that. Those are not negative things. And especially in the Black community, you're seen down upon when you have some kind of like mental illness feelings. You feel distraught about something. That's natural. That's normal. That's what people feel. It's what we go through every day in life. So get help, find medication, try it. It makes your life better. It doesn't necessarily fix all the wrongs in the world, but sometimes you have to have a little bit clearer of a head to get on the right path. Because with depression, with ADHD, we might think we're on the right path, but we're on the right path for what we're feeling at the moment. And it's a very sporadic movement, because I'll tell you right now, with ADHD, I can feel 30 things in one day. So, I might wake up this morning and go, I want to be an airplane pilot now. Let me just ditch this career. I want to head straight towards that. I don't know nothing about the first thing about being an airplane pilot at all, in the least. But you know what? I'm willing to forsake everything else that I did, because today I thought that was a good idea. Or depression will pull you down from being your best self for the day. People always say like Monday sucks and stuff like that. But when you look at it and you go into it, depression turns every day into a Monday. So you don't want to let that do that to you. So you want to talk to somebody about it. We all go through the same emotions. We just don't talk about it anymore. We don't communicate with each other. So, it's easy to see everybody else's life and go, well, everybody else is happy. They're living their best life. They're living everything else. They're doing great. They might not be doing great, but they're just not putting the mask on this morning. They're not putting it to the forefront. So that's the big thing, I think. Find help, talk to somebody. The biggest thing you could do to hurt yourself is to not let yourself be free, not let yourself speak.
And yeah, go ahead, Tyrus. You got something?
Yeah, my question is, what was the, I guess, breaking point for you to say, you know what, I need some help now. I need to go ahead and figure out what's going on and how I can move forward.
For me, it was a lot of things. So in personal life wise, career wise, it's always just been trying to find a better job, trying to find a better career. Personal life wise, I got into the point where I was trying to figure out ways to be what I thought mentally was happy and healthy. You see other people out there, they're happy, and you're like, well, why do I not feel that? Why do I not understand that? And so, then you spend your weekends drinking or going out and partying and stuff like that all the time, to the point where, like there's plenty of times in my life where I have just been drunk out of my mind to just get out of that feeling of feeling terrible about myself or self-hating, something like that. It gets to a point where you hit rock bottom, and like nights where you passed out someplace, or nights where you're waking up and you have no idea what's going on in your life, that you stop and take a step back and you're like, okay, you know what? This is completely unacceptable. Like, no one else is doing this, and this is not healthy for me. So how can I expect better if I'm the one doing the worst thing to myself? Having a kid definitely helped to steer me onto a better path of that. But when you're in a situation where you're just having to worry about yourself, yeah, you have to take a step back and see that you're the biggest factor in breaking yourself.
And I'm glad you brought up the alcohol, because when we look at drugs and alcohol, and it's not in all cases, but in many of those cases, those are just gateways out of dealing with the underlying issue of what's going on emotionally or mentally. And a lot of people, instead of going and talking, and it could be very well that, especially in the African American community, how we place that stigma so much on mental health, and you got to be strong. So people just drink away their problems. It's just, I can't talk about it. They feel like they can't talk about it. I feel like I don't have a place to go. And to be honest with you, growing up back home, I don't even know. There was a mental health facility, but the people there were really, they couldn't live on their own, or they had to have care. It was like a mental hospital. I honestly don't know a therapist. Like, when I think back and remember, for a person, if they had mental issues and needed just therapy, just counseling, I don't know where they would have went in my county or the surrounding ones. Maybe you have to drive an hour or an hour and a half away to find that. And so people drink, become alcoholics, become addicted to drugs, and they use that as a shield to hide and mask and cover the real problem. And so while people try to treat the symptoms, they're not diagnosing the problem correctly or treating that. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because if you're out there and alcohol is your mask or your cover, go talk to somebody. Figure out what's underlying is causing that. Figure out who you can talk to. And if you don't know, just start somewhere. Just even if you go to a hospital and go to the emergency room and tell them you need to speak to somebody, because a lot of times people feel stuck and trapped, and I just don't know where to go. So that's a starting point for you, because there are resources out there. We just have to dig a little bit to find.
Yeah, and that it's a really big issue, to be honest with you. And that was some I've done some research on this in Texas, at least, and I believe the statistic is something like the state of Texas has like I think 2 to 4 mental health professionals, meaning some type of like psychiatrist or psychologist, in that stature, per, I think it's like 300,000 people or something like that. So that mix is astronomical. There's no way that those people can be serviced, because if you think about it, if you were a psychiatrist, psychologist right now, and you had to go help someone with their mental health, and they say, hey, we're going to break this down out, between the state and the counties and cities, we're going to give you 200,000 people, we're going to give that person there's no way you would just quit. There's no way that you can complete all this. And so something that both of y'all said there was just like, get help. Right now, I want to speak to the literal people on here. So Tyrus, you touched on it a little bit, but TJ, I want you to talk about specifically, like, who are the people who can help you? Like, who are the people that you've gone to? You don't have to say names, but like, what's their role? What did they help you with? Like, what type of stuff you did? Because I have another question after that, if you remember you telling me that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But who are those types of people that can help you? Because I think a lot of times we say, well, go get help, go talk to somebody, and that's great. But for those people that go talk to somebody might be their cousin, or that go talk to somebody might be their friend who's also in a toxic mindset. That go talk to somebody might be their, to be honest with you, it could be their parents, and this is something that I've seen that's happened for you. Their parents say, well, I just think it's a phase. So who are those people that you can talk to? Where can you find those? Where can you find these people at, for you to be able to actually get the help that you need?
So a lot of these people, of course, there's professionals in the field. There's psychiatrists, psychologists. There are definitely mental health professionals out there that you can go out and reach. And it's just as easy. Hop on Google, look for maybe psychiatrist near me or psychologist near me, even depression expert, anxiety expert, something like that. You'll definitely find somebody. On a more common level basis, that one is a little bit harder, because you want to find someone who can understand and listen to you without bringing that toxicity to it. So it's having friends, it's having relatives, it's having strangers. Find a good forum online, find a good podcast, find something to listen to, because the big thing is that you want relativity there. You want someone who says, you know what, I'm going through that too, I get it, and means it. It's really easy for me to say, like, man, I had a terrible day. It's probably the worst day I had in forever. and I tell you, and you're just like, yeah, me too. I mean, ordered a burger and they made it wrong. That our days are different because my day, I could feel like it's the end of the world for me, and for you, you handle it differently, and it can feel, while you were well wishing that, it can feel just as bad from the start and push you further towards that toxicity than actually pulling you out of it. And so, find a family member who, if you're going to find a family member who's going through those things, look for those signs, because you're going through it yourself. You should know what it is. Um, get friends, find a group. If you have a hobby, find people in that hobby to, get along with. Like, it's different things like that. It doesn't always have to be a professional. They do the best job at it, I think, because they're able to help you understand things. But on the other side of it, there's going to be a lot of moments where you talk to them and you're like, they don't get what I'm going through. They do. They're specialized in this. They understand what you're going through. You can't let yourself feel like they're not empathetic to your situation, because it's really easy to go that way. But stick with it, go with it for a little while. It's brief conversations, but they do care about you. Everybody cares about each other in this situation, in this world. So I think that's the big step. Just, it depends on the quality of person you find to help you with that.
Yeah, and that last part there, kind of what I was taking from that was, um, don't don't impute your emotions. Don't push your emotions onto someone to say, and just to be fair, well, I'm special, and you don't understand what I'm going through. But in reality, they do. They just, when you speaking to these professionals, they probably just don't empathize with you so much to where they're like, oh, well, let's just both go cry about it right now. Oh, well, let's just sit in the corner together and do whatever, right? It's that's part of their method and their process to say, okay, I'm internalizing what you're telling me. And this is something that I want to bring up, because it's not about mental health. It is about mindset. Is that as a lot of people, you think you're special, but you think you're special because you say, hey, and this is the reason why I wanted to bring you on here, TJ. I only got $13 to my name. Well, you did too, right? I have too, at a certain point in life, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all have had these circumstances that's happened to us, but for some reason you say, well, I'm special. Well, look at me, look at my scenario, look at my situation. This is why I can't do it. Well, in reality, you can go find 100 more people, 1,000 more people, half a nation's worth of people who's going through something. But you're speaking so emotionally that you're not understanding that, look, it's the way that I feel. And there's not a discredit to that. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to express those emotions, as long as it's a mature expression of it. But just realize that, and when I say that, you ain't that special, I'm not trying to come for anybody's life. It's just that there are situations that are happening. It's not new. It's not new to anybody. So whether you're broke, whether you're fighting, mental health, whether you're fighting in a relationship, whether you're not in the job that you want, there's a whole bunch of people doing it. The question is, what are you going to do to get out of that? And so that brings me to my next question, or I should say, if you remember this, so you started getting into cars, and when you started getting into cars, you sat down and you talked to me one time about you washing cars. And so I don't know if you remember this, but I believe you had your Camaro at the time. And you said, when I feel myself starting to get into that state, I wash my car. Because I always used to wonder, I'm like, this cat can wash the car 7 times a week.
Paint off of it.
Right. I'm like, there is no more paint on it. But that's the thing was, so you had told me, you said, hey, when I feel myself going into a funk, I wash my car. And I always use this for people, even for myself, like when I'm speaking to teams and everything. No, I don't bring your name up. But the thing is, you had that thing to where when you felt yourself going there, you created a process for you to say, I'm going to pull myself up out of it. And this is how I do that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, so the big thing is that once you reach a mindset of understanding that the problem you may face or something overwhelming you at the moment is temporary in life, then you can find a means to kind of like put that away. Like behind me, you see all my models and everything like that. Those are forms of helping with depression, helping with anxiety, things like that. It puts you in a situation where I have to focus on that. And I think, call back to earlier with the building computers as a kid, like that's a big part of it is I have to focus on this. I can't worry about work on Monday. I can't worry about a meeting I had last week, because if this goes together wrong, it's going to be messed up. So I have to focus on that. If I'm washing this car, then I'm worrying about every fine detail on the vehicle. I'm not worried about, oh, well, I said this in the meeting earlier. Are they going to be upset about that? Or this didn't get completed? No, we're focusing on the tangible in the world at the moment. And that's the big thing, is you got to find something else, something to pull you out and center yourself a little bit. Like when you start to get overwhelmed by everything, find a nice spot to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to just do this, or watch a movie, or read a book, put a puzzle together, just something that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about bills. Bills don't matter when I'm detailing the car, when I'm out on the drive. This doesn't matter. Let's just, keep yourself in the moment.
So what you're describing is a positive way to shift your mind from what has been worrying or bothering you, or that's beginning to, into something that you enjoy. So it brings a layer of peace to you at that moment.
Yes. And so, because a lot of depression and ADHD is all about at the moment. At the moment I feel this. At the moment it's the end of the world. And it's not necessarily that way. If I go and let's say I want to go wash clay bar, detail my car completely, that's a 3 to 4 hour process. I come back after 4 hours, I'm tired. My job is done. I see a tangible, something nice, shiny, and good, and I'm not worried about anything anymore. Whatever was bugging me at the moment's on the back burner now. I could worry about that another day. So yeah, you are 100% correct. It's finding something positive to layer in between there, and get your mind off of it. If you think about like a film roll, you splicing and cutting in something different and letting that go through, and then you're not worried about it.
Yeah, no, and that's good. And that's something that I want people to understand in general, because I think that a lot of people they don't know what car they need to wash. And so the reason is maybe they're not a car person, that maybe they're not I don't know, a video game person, a movie person, or something like that, but you haven't found the car that you need to wash. And what I mean by that is you allow yourself to get in a rut, to get in a situation, but you don't have a process in place for you to say, when I start, and I always use this analogy, driving straight, you should drive straight and turn right. Now, there's times where you might need to turn left, but I think all three of us, we can agree that when you start turning left, you exposed to more. There's traffic coming from this way. There's traffic coming from this way. I don't know what my light might say. My light might be just a solid green. It might not be a protected green to go left. So there's more things that I need to worry about. So when you drive straight and turn right, the majority of the time you're in a position where you can control just a couple things, and that's it. And so for a lot of people, you haven't figured out what that thing is for you. You haven't figured out that process and how to stay straight or turn right, right? You just keep on turning left, and you just turn it left, and you like, Jesus, take the wheel. And if something happens, it's fine. And I'm just going to deal with whatever the consequences are. So I want people to figure out, and shout out to my good friend, Arthur Papillon, because he has MS. And he talked about how he had to divorce his wheelchair because his wheelchair kept him back. It kept him back. And so I was thinking about it as you were talking through that, is what is your process? What is the thing that you have to give up or you have to do to pull yourself back into saying, hey, got to get back on the path, got to start driving straight, got to start turning right. So you're digging yourself up out of here, right? You're digging yourself up out, getting kicked out, got the mental health issues going on. Talk to us about some accomplishments that you've had now, or some things that you've been doing now that are really starting to say, hey, I'm not living in this victim mentality anymore. I'm not sitting here still stressing about, well, back in the day, they used to tease me. Back in the day, this is what used to happen to me. Talk to me about some stuff right now that you've got going on that you're like, you know what? I just want somebody to look at me and say, if he can do it, anybody can do it.
So I think the big thing for that one is it takes time. It definitely takes time. So I used to always think like get it done quick. The get rich quick mindset. Like it's gonna happen. I'm gonna just look up one day and boom, it's amazing. So I moved out to the Dallas area because I had met my now current wife. Um, I was going through work stuff back then, and I figured, I was moving anyway. It's time to cut it. I was doing 2 jobs. This was for the birds. It's time to cut it. It's time to move to Dallas. Is that a scary step? Yep. I never lived in Dallas. I didn't have a place to go. So got an apartment, got a job, went out there for the interview. Everything sounded good. Moved on out. And I thought for the probably first year I was out here, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this feels, okay. I'm doing good in my mind, but I expected more out of what I was doing in my life. Then I realized it takes time. I had opportunities at work where I was upset because I was like, oh, somebody else got it. They didn't deserve it. Oh, this person got it. They didn't deserve it. It takes time. I'll tell you right now, every single person who got the promotion that I wanted, who got the spot that I wanted, are no longer with the company I work for. They all quit, got fired within 6 months of getting that spot. They wasn't ready for it. And you know what? I dodged that bullet because I wasn't ready for it either. So it's just hard work. I got moved from the Frisco location to the Irving location. I thought it was a death sentence because, I was like, oh, well, they're putting me in a tougher spot. My manager said, nope, this is where you need to go because they need you. They need what you got, what you bring to the table. Okay. After that, I got moved to McKinney. McKinney was a death sentence for anybody. If you were management, they said basically you were going there and that's the door out. And so I even joked with my manager one day. I said, look, if y'all want to fire me, just let me know ahead of time. Like, don't put me through it first. And they told me, no, we want to change this. We want to change that mindset. We want to change this location. We want to change all these things. It took hard work. At that point, it took 2 years. And it was probably the worst 2 years I had career-wise with the company to do it. And there were plenty of times where I wanted to give up, but plenty of times where I wanted to say, nope, screw it. This ain't me. This is tough. This is taking me out of my comfort zone a little bit. This is rough. But you know what? I guess at the end of it, it'll be a light. At the end of it, there'll be a light. And it took one day for someone who I had met literally at the first location I worked at to say, hey, I remember you. And I'm like, yeah, I remember you too. And they were like, they asked a question about IT stuff. And I said, oh, well, if it's that, then it should be this. We went in the office, we checked it out. Sure enough, went through. And they were like, you got an IT background? And I said, yeah, I love it. And they said, okay, cool. 2 days later, my district manager gives me a call and says, hey, they want you to go ahead and put in an application real quick. They got a spot open at the corporate office and they want you to put in for it. And that negative mindset I've always had pulled me down to like, oh, they want this, but I don't have a college degree and I don't have this and I don't have that. Why would they want that? But it's because I put the time and the effort into it. I put the longevity. See, my reward was coming through because I took my time and waited. Had I jumped the gun and quit because I didn't get the position that I wanted, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. If I'd have got the position when I wasn't ready for it, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. And so it takes time. You want what's in front of you so fast that sometimes you have to say no and you have to pull back a little bit. That's the biggest thing I've learned through the entirety of my life. Through all this restarting over, through all this everything, it's just, take time, do what you're supposed to be doing. Don't do it for nobody else. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Do what you need to do. Okay. And sure enough, it was an amazing process to me. I went through about 8 interviews to get in there with everything done. And when I got in there, it's a whole different world. And, I'm finally at the career path that I want to be in. And I've been with the company I'm with. It's going to be 6 years in March, and that's a long journey to say, like, to come through. And I always would give my employees advice. And I always, one employee that stuck out the most to me, I gave her some advice and she was She was great. She did her job amazingly. I would have done anything to keep her at this job. Okay. But she came to me one day and she said, I have an opportunity to go with a different job. I'm going to make twice as much money. And I said, okay, cool. And she said, it's a career path for me. It's what my degree's in. And, it's better than what I'm doing. I said, go for it. And she said, you're not mad at me? And I said, no, because it's a career growth. It's an opportunity. You were right earlier when you said choosing between a job and a career are two different things. And sometimes even if you have to take a baby step back to go into a career from a job that you're at, longevity, that's the big thing. You don't want to be slogging and doing a job you hate for 10 years, hoping you can get out to go to another job. But if you take a step back and get out of your comfort zone just a little bit, 10 years, you'll be 3 times the distance that you were going to be in the first place.
Wow. What I took from that, and we do live in a microwave society where I want everything as fast as I can get it. I want my popcorn in 30 seconds. I want my food warmed up. I don't want to bake it. I don't want to cook it. I want to microwave it. I want my career to happen as fast as I can think. But we haven't put in the work or the practice to be skilled at it. And then we get mad when somebody bring, okay, funny story. I used to work with this lady. She was a senior tester. And so what happened was she worked with a group of guys and they did all the work. They did all the testing. And those guys end up, that company that they worked for was off the contract. We came in, she stayed, and they started telling her to test the stuff. And she was like, what you mean? They were like, your title says that you're a senior tester. We shouldn't have to tell you how to test it. And so she got all upset over that. But we was joking and like, but that's your job. Well, how do you? She wanted the title, but didn't want to do the job. And a lot of people want the title, they want the accolade, they want the respect, they want the money, they want the big house, but they don't want to work or put in the work or effort to get it. And it goes back, Tim, just to be in love with the process. I think we're so focused on the end goal that we forget that there's a process. And when you fall in love with the process, no matter where you're trying to go, you'll always be able to get there because you have the discipline and consistency to make it there. Another thing that I wanted to highlight what you said earlier was with the going to wash the car. So often when we fall into what we call a funk, we stay there, and we shouldn't. We should. It's okay, and everybody has those feelings of, okay, this didn't work out. I'm kind of down, or I'm just not feeling it today. But when that goes from 5, 10 minutes to 5, 6 weeks, and oh, I just can't get my life together. Well, why not? What's going on? What's happening in this period of time that you've been in this funk that you just feel stuck? When I talk to people and they tell me that they're going through the same issue repeatedly and it's been months, I then start to ask the question, what are you doing personally about it? And are you committed to changing it? And I think a lot of people are just not committed. So, Tim, I want to ask 2 questions for you. The first question is, how do you begin to differentiate or separate a toxic mindset of self negativity and then the actual depression part of it, which you might cannot control? You know, we could control some of our thoughts, but with depression, it's a little bit different. You may need medicine, you may need help. How do you separate the two? How do you separate just self negativity and sabotage from depression? And then what made you decide to commit to not staying in a funk for a long period of time?
So I think the big thing for separating the two is this: the toxic mentality is more temporary. It's sharper and way more temporary of a situation. So it's a situation of, telling myself I can't do this. And it's just that I can't do this. It's just that negative. I can't do this. Depression kind of leads you, it's softer. It leads you on a little bit longer. It hits you with, you can't do this because last time you tried you failed, or you can't do this because you can't do it. They asked you for this opportunity because they want to see you fail. It's stuff that sometimes just doesn't even make sense when you write it on paper. It's just, you're like, well, they don't know anything about me. Why would they want to see me fail? Like, Why would they hire me to see me fail? Like, that's a whole process. So why would they want to pull me in here to not see me succeed? But it's easy to get wrapped up in there because you're telling yourself and you're backing up your own fears of what it is that's going on. Where with the toxic mindset, and honestly, this may even be an easier way to differentiate it. With a toxic mindset, a lot of times the negativity comes from outside sources. It's not even necessarily yourself. It's family or it's friends going, well, why are you trying to do that? You ain't never done that before. Or, oh, you remember the last time you did that though? That didn't work out that good, huh? It's so easy for you to then sit back and go, yeah, you're right, that didn't work out that good, so I'm just never going to try that again. When in reality, you need to go, you know what, that didn't work out that good last time, but here's why. Realistically, I didn't commit to it fully. I didn't go to work correctly. I didn't put my 100%, 110% in there. So the failing was on part to myself. So this time when I try it, I know, let me wake up early. Let me show up on time. Let me do what I got to do. Let me do a little bit extra. And then they'll see what I got. But it's really easy for me to tell you, man, you know, the last time you was there, you was late a lot. That's why you got fired, right? Oh, I wouldn't try that again. Well, of course you're going to not want to try that again, you know?
That's good. That's good, Corey. I mean, so many gems dropped right there. Take it self-assessment. Assess yourself. Am I giving everything that I say I'm going to? Am I really committed? Because I'm trying to figure out, sometimes, Tim, when you speak to people, especially when Corey and I when we're coaching, when we're going through personal development, and we start to unpack some things, there are instances where we know, okay, this sounds more like a mental health thing. You need to talk to a licensed counselor or therapist. You need to go speak to someone who can help you unpack that. And then there's that other side, like you said, I don't believe you put 100% effort into this because you keep saying you want something. And then when I ask you if you did the steps, you say no. Why are you selling? Basically, you're creating a self narrative and you're living in that narrative and you're telling yourself that narrative over and over and over, and you're not moving forward. So I appreciate you breaking that down and separating that for us. And you hit the nail really on the head that when I think about it, a lot of toxicity comes from outside sources that we just internalize, and then we say it, start telling ourselves that. I read a post the other day from a gentleman. They were talking about goal setting, and he was saying, I feel set up because you want me to write out my dreams and you want me to tell people about it. Those same dreams that people ask me, why do I want it? What am I thinking? You will never get that. And what I responded was to the post, I said, don't worry about what they say about your dreams. It's not their dream. They don't have to buy into your dream when it's not theirs. Of course, they may not understand it, nor everybody wants support and loves it, but nobody has to support you. You stand on your own and you walk, and then people will come in there and see, okay, you were real. You are doing this. And if they don't, hey, you then surround yourself with the right people. Like you said, talk to people and figure out who matches with you that's going to support you. If you know you love video games, if you know you're in technology, why are you hanging out with football players? They're not going to understand that path. They're not going to buy into it. So go to the people who will buy into what you're doing. And I just love that. If you're listening, shield out, no negative talk. Just make that a non-negotiable in your life and say, you know what? You can vent to me. You can tell me about the problem or situation, but what are we going to do about it? Beyond that, I'm not dealing with negative talk. I'm not dealing with the complaining. I'm not dealing with the whining. I'm not dealing with you bringing toxicity into my life because you have a difficult time going on in yours. And so I can go on about that for another hours, but I'll let Corey take it over.
Nah, and you hit the nail on the head because look, and this is something, TJ, that I know you and I have talked about plenty of times too. Since we brought ourselves out of our environment, since we put ourselves in different situations, since we're around people who want to grow and that want to develop and want to do better in life, all of a sudden that negative talk starts sounding like nails on a chalkboard. And we've talked about it before too. And we're like, what are they saying? Like, what? It just sounds foolish. And I'm glad you asked that question for him to break it down, because some people may walk away and say, well, maybe I have depression because I just keep thinking negatively. That's not it. You're self-sabotaging yourself because your friends are telling you can't do it. Your friends are saying, or your family members may be saying, well, no, you don't need to be going there. The people that you just, hanging around, your associates, I guess you could say, if you don't want to call them friends, they're saying, well, no, I just make enough money just to have a good time on Friday. That's it. And then you start believing that, and that's why you're in the mindset that you have. You're not actually depressed. That's a different story, and I'm glad you differentiated between the two for that. So, Tyrus, I got to throw this in here real quick. He talked about how, and because I was like, he talking to you, Tyrus. None of that microwave stuff where people just think that boom, instantly, he got it. Boom, instantly, he, got into IT instant. Like somebody out there is gonna listen to this and be like, man, Tim is blessed. He just so had me blessed.
Well,
but they ain't seeing how hard you were working.
Right. He blessed, but he worked hard.
Right.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of pain, struggle, break your back, hurt your feet, do without, do with. I think, just touching back on what y'all just said, a lot of the problem that we have as a culture in whole is just clout culture. It's understanding like, oh, okay, I got to do this now because everybody else got it. I got to do this because everybody else got it. What can I do to make everybody else like me, or to make myself feel special in a crowd of people doing exactly the same thing? And I think the biggest thing is going to come with this phrase here. Don't do anything for anyone who is not literally investing in you. That's the big part.
That's good.
That's the big part of it. I'm not doing anything to impress anyone in the world. I do it because it makes me happy. I do it because I enjoy it. Because here's the thing, you can go do whatever. Okay. I always use this one as an example. I'm going to say this. I want to buy a sports car. Okay. And I'm going to ask y'all too, what kind of car do you think I should buy?
Me knowing you,
name a car.
You probably just going to upgrade the Infinity, or it's going to be the Lamborghini one day.
Okay.
Sure. I don't know nothing about cars. I drive a truck, but if you're going to go get a sports car, I'd probably just tell you to go ahead and get you a good old Mustang or a Corvette.
See? Okay, that's cool, right? And so now, in my mind, though, I wanted a Miata. I want a little $20,000, maybe like an $8,000 project. But because I heard you guys say I should get a $100,000 car, I should get a $50,000 car. Well, now I want to chase that. But guess what? If I don't have what it takes to chase that, now I'm gonna put myself in debt for that. Now I'm gonna cripple my lifestyle for that. Why? Because I want to impress y'all. But here's the killer part. When I pull up, it's not doing anything for y'all. It don't affect y'all life. It doesn't change your life. You're not gonna go like, oh man, my life is better because Tim got a Corvette or Tim got a Lamborghini. My life is just amazing now. No. What it does is it takes me out of what I wanted to do, what would have made me happy, and puts me in a spot where now I have to fight harder to keep other people happy who have nothing to do with what I wanted in the first place.
And will disappear on you when you start to struggle.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And when I struggle, when I go, hey, but y'all, you told me to get that Corvette, man, and my lights are getting cut off, and you're gonna say, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. You should probably.
They're gonna be like, oh man, that sucks. Delete.
Exactly. Hey,
right.
That's real bad for you, but ain't nobody telling you to go get that car.
Right. Exactly. And on the backside, they're gonna be like, you heard Tim about to close, he about to lose his house.
But no, back on track, it was a long process. It's been a long time running. I've been with this company for 6 years. I've been working since I was 14. I started off working doing welding, and I lied about my age because I was tall enough to get around it. And there's very, very rarely a moment in my life where I have not worked in between that time. And it's all been get by jobs, and these are all jobs where in hindsight, I realized they were nothing but a job for the moment. But at that time, it was the most serious thing in my life. And, this was the best I was getting out of life. Cause I guess what, I was making $12 an hour and I was cutting up barbecue. That was poof. It don't get better than this. I could see myself doing this for forever. But if I didn't drop down a little and get out that comfort zone, then you don't want to do better. You just want to do, you want more money for the same job, or you want a better job with more money, but there's no way to get to that road because you didn't allow yourself a path there. You put a gate up in front of yourself, and you're not allowing yourself to go down that road that you want to go down. So it takes time. It's going to take a long time. It's work. It's effort. It doesn't instantly happen. It's never going to instantly happen. They say if it's too good to be true, then it's too good to be true, right? So invest in yourself, let it build over time, take that knowledge. And if you have to restart in life, it's not a failure. Push forward, take what you learned before you restart it, incorporate it in your new lifestyle, and push yourself up further than the last time. That's the big thing about it.
Good. Corey, I got one more question for Tim before we get ready to roll up out of here. And I want to be careful with how I phrase it because I don't want to be insensitive, but there are people out there with depression. And there are also people out there with other medical disabilities and things that happen to them in life. And Corey, just looking at author, he talked about divorcing the wheelchair and, really getting on his feet to move in life, move forward. Tim, what helped you to see or to still live your life and not use depression as an excuse? Not saying having it is an excuse, but some people will say, yeah, you know what? I got depression. I ain't really trying to do much else. They use their disability or their mental issue as a crutch and as an excuse not to move forward in life, because at a point of time, we used to think that if people had certain things, they weren't ever going to be able to hold a job. They were never going to be able to do anything in life. It's just all over with. They're just going to collect their check and do that. But how did you decide, or why did you decide, you know what? I'm going to continue to move forward. I want help. I want to get better. I want to do better, instead of just saying, you know what? I got depression. I ain't trying to really do anything but lay in the house and not go anywhere.
I think for that one, the biggest part is just, we all know people out there who've done worse than us, are doing worse than us, are in a worse state than us. And for me, a lot of the times, I've got friends who were worse depressed than me. I have, my old buddy Brock, he passed away. Now, not from depression or anything like that. Like, he was a great young man. He had a great future ahead of himself, but he got in a car accident and he died. And it's in the blink of an eye. I was at work and Ryan texted me out of the blue and he said, "Hey, look at this news article." And I said, "What's up?" And he goes, that's Brock's car. Brock's dead." And it's one of those moments where, you pull yourself out of reality and you realize, like, my reality is not as bad as I think, and you get faint glimmering moments of that. And you get some moments where you get that clarity to see that and to understand that. What you do with that is where the difference comes in. It's saying, okay, then I'm gonna live my life better. I'm gonna do better, or I'm gonna help someone who's in need. It's easy to think I had a rough day, but on the way home, this homeless man who's out in 30-degree cold and it's raining, yeah, he got it worse than I do. Even on my worst day, he got it worse than I do. And I think that's the thing. It's just being self-conscious of your fellow man and understanding, like, when it comes to it, it's fear. It's fear for yourself. We all scared of the future. We don't know what's going on with anything in the world, and it has nothing to do with the current state and climate of the world. But who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? That's the way depression works, and that's the mindset that it works in. And when you take yourself out of that mindset just a little bit, you're not going to fix it, but pull out just a little bit and realize, hey, this ain't as bad as it could be, and it's going to be better. Find a cause to make it better. That's the big way to go with it.
That's good. I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, and that's something that I want a lot of people to, even if you don't have mental health. And I know we're talking about that right now, but there's a lot of people that I'm sure all three of us have run across that, man, I might be overweight, therefore I can't. Man, I got this little hitch in my hip, therefore I can't. Man, my shoes don't fit right, I can't do that. And I'm just joking about that piece, but it's a lot of people out here who will latch on to that thing that is not right with them. And not to call it an imperfection, it's just the way that you were made. And they latch on to it and just say, I'm gonna just concede defeat. and you don't allow yourself to get over that hump, and you don't allow yourself to actually say, you know what, I can use this for a positive. Um, but yeah, without further ado, I think that last part he had, I think that's the best place to take it away from.
Well, you know, we could go deeper into this because we know that it's layers. And I just want to kind of recap for the people what we talked about, what we discussed tonight. We're discussing how do you overcome self sabotage and the toxic mindset, even when you have or been diagnosed with depression or any other mental health condition or any other physical disability or ailment. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves, and Tim did a great job of breaking that down for us, external versus internal. What story and whose story are you listening to? And then what's reality in life? Of course, talk about it, find somebody, seek out either friends, family, or if you need someone and take it to the next level, professionals, seek them out. There is no harm, no hurt, no damage in seeking out and talking to somebody and sharing your situation with them. Now, be mindful. Some people tell you business. So if you told somebody something and they told you business before, don't tell them your mental your mental problems. Don't tell them things you're going through in life because you want to find somebody that's going to help you and that has your best interest at heart. And you can separate it. Most of us know who those people are or in our circles that we don't need to share certain things with. And then next, I took away from what Tim was saying, just work, work, continue through the process, keep steady, keep your mind off of certain things, find that way out, find that thing to shift towards. They say that idle mind, idle hands is devil workshop. So if you're idle, if you're sitting around, if you wallowing in it, if you telling yourself that narrative and spinning it up, you're gonna create the problem for yourself and make it worse. So get out of that. There's something else I like about the process too, and what Tim talked about. Talked about how everything that even his setbacks, he took away information and knowledge, and when he got ready to start over, he applied that into the new walk, the new path, so he wouldn't make the same mistakes. I was reading in Deuteronomy today, actually, where they were telling before they got ready to go over into the promised land and take it. God was telling Moses to tell them, remember these last 40 years, everything I brought you through, everything I took you through, everything I made you go through. Some of it was to test you, to make sure that you learn a lesson. And if you follow all my statutes, all my laws, I'll always take care of you. I promised it to your ancestors. I'll take care of you through your generations. However, if you don't, I will cut you off. Now, when you're going through your process, look for the lesson. When you have a setback in life, ask yourself, what was the lesson? Tim mentioned, had he got the job that he wanted quickly, he may have would have been one of those people that got fired because he wasn't ready. So before you complain about a door being closed, make sure that you were ready and prepared to walk through that door anyway. Again, and then Corey always joke about people are blessed, but when you look deep, they worked hard for that blessing. When that opportunity came, when Tim's opportunity came, he was asked a question about IT. He had studied, he was prepared, he was knowledgeable. And so when they asked the question and he gave a response and was able to fix something, he was prepared for the opportunity. They didn't just give it to him because he showed up and looked good that day. He showed up armed with knowledge, ready for the opportunity, and then he capitalized when he got there. And so that's all my takeaways from this conversation. It has helped me a lot, especially because we all go through it. We all have those moments where, man, things just don't seem like they're working out. Is it me? Is it the situation? Can I blame somebody? We have those thoughts. But how do we get out of it? How do we shift our mindset? What do we do to take our mind off of it? And who are we listening to? Who is in our circle that can bring us out of it? So that's all I got. Tim, do you have anything that you want to leave with the people? Any last words of advice?
I think the best advice I have to give is to just work hard, be yourself. We touched a little bit earlier on everybody wants to be special. You are special. That's the thing. And whatever uniqueness you have to your individualism, allows you to be special. Don't look at that as a bad thing. Look at that as a growth step. Just work hard, do what you have to do, and be a positive person, and things will come to head.
Phenomenal. Corey, any last words, takeaways?
No, I think that's it. I guess the only thing I wanted to add to what you were saying earlier, though, was you talked about how working allowed him to get in to that position. Let me go a step further and say intentional work, right? So when we say learn the principle from the downfall, learn the principle from that job, that comes with being intentional in what you're doing. And so something that he said was live in the moment, live in the moment and take advantage of what's going on today. So that's what I want people to really get from this is while you work, be intentional in while you work. And amongst all the other principles that you listed, Tyrus, and the good words that my brother's been telling us, just make sure that when that work meets that opportunity, all of a sudden you might be blessed.
You might be blessed. Well, we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. I hope that you really, really tuned in. And I want to issue a challenge to you. Go out and commit to hard work, commit to the process, commit to taking responsibility and changing your life, whatever that may look like, because we can't sit and understand all the listeners' stories, but we do know that the process is similar. Commit to it, commit to change, commit to hard work, commit to seeing your situation for what it is. And what it is a temporary time that you're in that you can overcome. You may not be able to get rid of depression, but you can mitigate the symptoms. You can still live a functional life. You can overcome that aspect of it and not let it drag you down and hold you down. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week.